Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts about the 40k universe. I am your host Gershwin and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today we're going to be talking about the Conquest of the Caucasus Wastes. Now this is part of the Unification War series, so if you have not checked those videos out, please do so first. It'll make more sense once you see those videos. So please go over to our channel and we have the Unification Wars Part 1 video. But if not, if you've already seen that, then let's get into 40 facts about the Conquest of the Caucasus Wastes. The Caucasus Wastes was a techno-barbarian state located in the Caucasus Peninsula of Europe. Its ruler, known as the Ethnarch of the Caucasus Wastes, was defeated by the forces of the emperor and imprisoned in the imperial prison in the Himalayas. The Conquest of the Caucasus Wastes was one of the last great battles of the Unification Wars that would see at last the Emperor as the undisputed master of Terra, but victory did not prove easy. The primary Imperial force responsible for this outcome was the early 18th Legion of Space Marines, later known as the Salamanders, although it is entirely likely that the transhuman warriors of the 18th Legion saw action before their assault on the Caucasus Wastes. The first open battle recorded for the then as yet unmatched 18th Legion was the assault of the Tempestus Gallery during the overthrow of the Ethnarch of the Caucasus Wastes on Terra. Even though this battle occurred long before the 18th Legion reunified with their Primarch Vulcan on Nocturne, this conflict set its seal upon the nature of the Legion and had a profound influence that remains to this day. The mutated oligarchs who ruled the Caucasus Wastes presented the Emperor's force with one of the most difficult challenges they faced in open warfare. While few in number compared to the zealots of the Sondiac bloc, the Caucasus Ethnarchy's power was based on the scores of relic technologies and the terrible weapons in their possession, which dated back to before the Age of Strife. Its military forces ranged from the armored, gene-augmented Orcases, roughly like the Emperor's Thunder Warriors, and enslaved covens of Psykers. The Ethnarchy's stronghold were concealed kilometers deep beneath the hollowed-out mountains of the waste, and shielded from attack from above by nearly impregnable power field webs. An attempt by the Imperial force to take the Ethnarchy's mountain stronghold by storm earlier in the Unification War had met with bloody defeat, with the loss of almost 10,000 Thunder Warriors and more than 1 million other casualties. The forces of 6 entire proto-legions of the Legionis Astartes were mustered together for the final assault on the Caucasus Wastes, along with the mass force of Legio Custodes with the Emperor himself to lead them, and countless other tribute armies, mechanized battalions, and warrior bands beneath the Raptor and Lightning banner of Unification. The 18th would carry the assault to get rid of the shield protecting the Caucasus Wastes, utilizing scores of freshly created gigantic termite subterranean boring machines fitted with recently acquired technology from Mars. The full force of proto-legions, some 20,000 Astartes, strong at its juncture, was committed to what was widely believed to be a suicide mission to destroy the vast geothermal furnace which provided the power for the Ethnarchy's impregnable defenses. These were housed far below even the subterranean strongholds, and known of only through ancient legend, in a 100-kilometer-long string of vast artificially created caverns known as the Tempestus Galleries. The 18th Legion's power armor had been specially modified for the extreme conditions they were to face, and had been camouflaged in striated patterns of sulfur yellow and sable black. When the 18th went underground, all signals were lost, and not even the power of the Imperial Psykers could penetrate the turbulent depths to maintain contact with the Space Marine assault forces. Hours stretched into days, days became weeks, and nothing was heard from the assault force, while the vast army of the Emperor waited in immediate readiness for the grand attack. Pressed by his commanders, it is said that the Emperor silenced them and replied, "They shall not fail me. They will return from the fire. Thus it shall ever be." Reports claim that that moment after the Emperor spoke, great tremors shook the region, their turbulence felt as far away as the Gordak and the Jade Citadel of Hangul. In their wake, the power webs that had for so long shielded the Caucasus Wastes failed, and the full force of the Emperor's wrath fell upon them to their utter destruction. The last ethnarch of the Caucasus was dragged in chains to the imperial prison of the Himalayan mountains, and the buried secrets that had been his strength were taken by the new, now uncontested, master of Terra. Of the fate of the 18th Legion nothing was known until the closing days of the campaign, when far from the wastes, a long-dormant volcano near the Kolstak shattered, and one of the termite machines hauled itself from the rubble, carrying just over 1,000 survivors from the 18th Legion. Almost 4/5 of the 18th Legion's task force had survived the journey to their objective, the rest being destroyed by the plethora of environmental hazards, crushing like eggshells between the grinding tectonic plates, or incinerated by the sea of magma when their shields failed. Those who breached the lined caverns of the Caucasus Tempestus Gallery found a strange imprisoned world, as alien as anything that the expedition of the Great Crusade would find among the stars. In the airless furnace beyond mortal endurance, the legionnaires of the 18th found no warriors of the Ethnarch to contest them, for nothing human had set foot in this hell for millennia, but rather the defenders of these sleepless engines that had turned since before the start of the Age of Strife, were fire-blanketed service automats reacting to the outsiders as a threat, like an antibody would against an invading infection in a living body. There were thousands of these Tempest machines, and all turned on the Astartes of the 18th Legion in an implacable and unceasing attack. Neither plasma nor melta weapons could breach their armor, while bolt shells rippled across them like rain. Only the massive kinetic force applied at close range against their articulated joints was able to disable them. The 18th Legion held out with a mixture of stoic resilience and suicidal fury, fighting now for survival from gallery to gallery. They collapsed tunnels and severed the silicate webs behind them to impede their pursuer and buy themselves time. But their casualties were huge, with thousands having perished within the first dozen hours of the conflict. But the precious time they had purchased with blood, however, would be spent well by the survivors. Showing the aptitude for technology and craft for which they would become justly famed in later centuries, they began to first use the wreckage of the attacking machines that surrounded them as salvage to repair and augment their expended war gear, and soon escalated to tearing from the automates their central control system and repairing them sufficiently to be sent crashing back into their own ranks as mindless berserkers. This proved only the start. Soon something like a stalemate had been achieved. In the deeps, the ancient, impeccable machine spirit that bounded the Tempest galleries together was manufacturing fresh robotic soldiers for its cause, and that was something that the Astartes of the 18th Legion could not match. Realizing the strategic reality, the Legion hatched a plan. The plan was to attack and cripple the central power transmission node in the largest of the gallery chambers yet discovered. The reasoning being that if the vast generator spindles were not put out of action, it would successfully interrupt the flow of energy to the Ethnarch's defenses far above. A two-pronged assault strategy was devised. The first division would mount a series of diversion attacks at other locations to confuse the enemy. Once this was underway, the second large division would assault the power node. It was assumed that while survival was in any way unlikely for the Space Marines of the 18th Legion, death for the Central Assault Force would be certain. For this reason, the 18th Legion's surviving commander decided on the wishes of the Legion's rank and file and assigned the Legionnaires to this mission by lottery, not because they had no volunteers for the main assault, quite the contrary, but because it was the feverish wishes of all to take part. When the assault came, the Legionnaires thundered from their holdouts and defensive positions, many armed with improvised power fists and thunder hammers, shock cannons and cutting saws fashioned from the shattered remains of the fallen Tempestus machines. With them came their full reservoir of munitions and manpower, for nothing was or could be held back. attacked suddenly from many fronts. The inhuman intelligence which oversaw the Tempest Gallery responded with cold machine logic, effectively dividing and dispatching his forces to deal with the threats. The fighting was savage, but the plan was working, and the concentrated force of the main assault group managed to smash its way into the Great Gallery, its few remaining dreadnoughts and batteries leading the way. Like a hive of ants crudely kicking open the Tempest automat responded in a tide of scorched black metal and snapping serval claws, slamming into the 18th Legion head-on across the silicate bridge suspended between the sea of fire below and the hurricane of lightning far above. Bodies by the hundred, machine and legionnaires alike, fell broken into the abyss, severed power cables sparking furiously, mechanical bodies exploding in sheets of fire and shrapnel, while spilled blood vaporized to steam in the superheated air. Slowly, tormentlessly, the Legion fought its way to the towering power node at the center of the gallery, buying each meter of ground taken with dozens of lives. It was then that the Kraken rose from the depths. A vast articulated beast machine appeared, the greatest of the robotic engines that maintained the Tempest Galleries, sheeted in armor, scales of synthetic black diamond, molten running off of it like water. Its coils would have crushed a battle titan, and were more than sufficient enough to shatter the bridge on which the legions fought. Their weapons utterly useless against the new foe, the survivors were forced to attempt a fighting retreat they knew was futile, as one by one, the strands of the bridge were severed and hundreds more fell to their doom. What occurred next can only be guessed, but the last garbled transmission from the Great Gallery was of one of the huge grav-propelled tunneling spheres used by the Tempest machines, crashing through the gallery wall and plunging past the Kraken engine, directly into the node nexus. It is believed that the only possible explanation for this is that one part of the diversionary attack group had used the confusion of the battle to gain control of one of the colossal serrated tunneling spheres and set upon using a last-ditch weapon to send it straight into the node. Regardless of the cause, whether Legion action or the calamity of one of their own machines gone haywire, the node structure exploded, collapsing the gallery around it and blowing out numerous surrounding caverns and tunnels, and creating the earthquakes and tremors felt across the region. The explosion also appeared to have murdered the governing machine spirit of the galleries, for in the aftermath, the machines simply shut off. The machinery stilled, the vast spindle generators sinking slowly and silently into the fires below, never to turn again. Little more than 1,000 Astartes of the 20,000 strong 18th Legion survived, and those who did were scattered across the Tempest Gallery, many conducting diversionary attacks at the fringes, and once again displaying formidable fortitude and perseverance in regrouping and intelligence in rebuilding one of the damaged termite transporters for the journey back to the surface. Upon their return, the Emperor himself gathered the survivors together and awarded them the laurel of victory for the campaign against the Ethnarch, to be forever theirs in their first battle honor, inscribed with the motto, "In fire and darkness tested." This was to prove prophetic, and the actions on the Tempest Galleries a high bar indeed for the Legion's prowess, and a standard of sacrifice and victory against the odds that would prove a punitive task mark for the Legion in early years of the Great Crusade. It was secretly hidden from the records of this battle that the 18th Legion survivors brought with them from the Tempest Galleries metallurgy and machine craft predating the Age of Strife, the secrets of which, in addition to being given over to the Imperial Command, were retained by the 18th Legion itself. And those were 40 facts about the Conquest of the Caucasus Wastes. Really awesome story. If you are a Salamanders player, if you have a friend who's a Salamanders player, send them this video and show them how badass their Legion was, even before they found Vulcan, because this story is amazing. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. Please comment down below and tell me if you guys want to hear more about the Age of Strife, or whether you guys want to hear about the Great Crusade for next week. Please comment down below. Subscribe to the channel to get these videos. And if you're already subscribed, you are awesome. Thank you for liking, commenting, and sharing. Now, we want to provide more videos for you guys. So we are asking for a huge favor. If you can go over to Patreon, support us on Patreon. It's just $1 a month, and that's going to help us create more videos on top of the videos that we're putting out every day. We have some ideas that we want to throw out there, so please go support us on Patreon if you wish. If not, just simply liking, sharing, just viewing the video is helpful enough. Thank you guys for being awesome. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.